This story is by TempoWrites. It is a third in the series of the Goat Bro stories.
Wait, what
So
is
this follows the goat parent trap, which was the one that had the incredible picture of Asriel eating fruit blasters.
Every time I come
while
on YouTube, it's recommended because I subscribe to you.
Oh, thanks.
So
Yeah, I have a subscriber.
Me too.
And Frisk is having a very important meeting.
Yeah. With the spatula and a failing graph.
Yes.
It was a scraper and a spatula.
It was a pink, yeah. And Asriel is just adorable there in his
I think they went backwards in time or something.
fruit blasters. Yes. What?
The graph had it like they went backwards in time or something.
Yes, it did. It did.
Because his paper slipped.
Yes, that's right.
No, but okay. So where did it end?
Oh, I read.
Well, so it's not a direct sequel. It's just a. It ended with them dressing up as Toriel, as I recall, and trying to impress Asgore. But that failed. Although Toriel and Asgore were at least talking afterwards, and then they. Then Asriel used the night light to demonstrate how Frisk could be there for them when it's dark and times are tough. And then they went to play a video game where, oh dear, I'm going to get this wrong. Like, children with special powers are fighting against haunted appliances or something.
Yes, that sounds about right.
Something like that.
What's the story called again?
It was just called Save.
That was
where he met. That was with the
Doomhole one?
That was the Doomhole one. The Temiel was there with the Toriel and Temi mashed together. Yep.
Okay,
And,
I still like Doomhole. I still want to just like beware Doomhole.
Doomhole is
All the danger on it.
Doomhole is a tag because of it.
yes. I don't think Doomhole is a tag in this story, but there are many useful tags.
Like what?
I'm not going to tell you. It kind of tells the story.
Summary? Title?
Summary title: Undertale Training Wheels by TempoWrites.
I feel like that has a double meaning.
Was it last story? It was like Frisk was telling Asriel his character, he was like, and here's a drawing of a crab. I think it was cute.
Oh yeah, a crab holding a balloon, as I recall.
It's just like, here's our plants, here's this, and this is a crab with a balloon. I thought it was cute.
Yes, I must say this series of stories is the best Frisk that I've ever read. With Kid Frisk, who has determination to save the underground, but is actually acting like a 8 or 9 year old kid. So I love it.
So, what is the summary?
Yes, we haven't gotten to that yet, have we? Summary.
This is gonna take a while.
Well, and yeah. Frisk is very confident with adventurous stuff, but unsure about how to fit into a family. Asriel is a delicate marshmallow, but knows that he's loved. They're figuring it out, though. Alright, there is a picture, but you may not see it.
Aww, he drew a picture.
Not at this time. No, it is the same artist as the previous one. So I think his name is Sam Pipes, but neither of these pictures are on his DeviantArt account. So
can we get
he's a good artist.
Or not fan art, real author art of the Doomhole and the note on it that just says.
Just draw a circle and color it in black.
I mean,
that's
like,
easy.
Real art
I could do that. You could do that. Post. There you go. Make your own Doomhole art. Put it somewhere. And, see what happens.
We could buy one of those circles that's like the blackest paint ever that absorbs 99.95% of light. And it sells for like $300.
Yes, there is a story ahead of us, and there are no Doomholes in this story. So, keep that in mind. Put a pin in it and think about it. A new world rolled by the car window. It looked like the old one, just with the underground spread on top, like weird peanut butter. You had looked at plenty of store windows, but never one with a mer-horse flexing at his own reflection. You had seen plenty of sidewalks, but never with jelly creatures jiggling down them. You'd ridden in plenty of cars, but never with a purple-robed goat monster steering. You had sat next to plenty of other kids, but never with an actual goat kid, his fluffy paws tapping through a Tetris game. Nothing crazy had happened in the last few months, which was nice. Normal life used to float between boring and gloomy. Now, you had a pretty cool normal. Propping your chin on your hand, you stared out the window. At a stoplight, Toriel glanced at you. My child, I notice that you frequently squint. Is it possible that you need glasses? You blinked, and then shrugged. I don't know. I've always seen this way, so it's hard to tell. She nodded and returned her eyes to the road. I believe there is a test. With an amused snicker, Asriel rolled his eyes. Mom, don't assign Frisk tests when we're not even at school. Her ears rose a little as she tried to see him in the rearview mirror. My child, it is not that kind of... Oh, you are joking. With a musical giggle, he stuck out his little pink tongue. The corner of your mouth twitched towards a smile. Well, he's making puns. I guess he really is your kid. I had always suspected he was. She turned a corner toward the school. I am lucky to have such amusing children. Her large, fluffy hand tipped back through the gap between the two front seats. Asriel flopped his hand onto hers. After hesitating for half a second, you realized they were waiting for you to join in whatever this dorky maneuver was called. The little goat guy's eyebrows strained to point you in the direction of joining in. Your mom just waited, in no hurry to get her hand back. You reached and touched their silk-furred paws, which meant that everybody could go back to sitting normally. Belonging shone somewhere deep in your chest, heating your cheeks up into a blush. Having two goats want to give a slow-mo high-five filled you with determination. Toriel's mom-mobile puttered into the school parking lot. You and Asriel waited till she turned off the car to unbuckle your seats, then hopped out. The sun glowed behind one of the few clouds in the sky. The lawn shimmered jade green. Construction paper art projects shaded the school's windows with a whirl of colorful shapes. Asriel latched onto your sleeve to wait for Toriel, but she waved you onward. She rounded the car to open the back hatch, so the two of you headed around the building to the shining glass structure behind it. Asgore straightened at the entrance and waved to you. He was wearing a pink floral shirt with only a small amount of dirt on it. With a happy bleat, the young monster trotted over and hopped up to hug Dad around the chest. Oof! Asgore grunted at the impact, but caught the flying goat in his arms. He looked at the kid with exaggerated curiosity. How strange! I do not remember planting any fluffy white jumping beans. Hey! The little goat guy snickered as he clung to his dad. He flopped the small monster onto his shoulder. Looks to be the climbing variety. Asriel squeaked in upside-down surprise, his ears dangling like tube socks hung out to dry. You smirked. They were kind of dorks, but you liked them. You hugged the blonde, bearded goat too, but without any gymnastics. Holding your bro up with one arm, the larger monster's hand tousled your hair with gentle affection. And now a flourishing Frisk has cropped up. Howdy! He always said the word a little like a question, like he was waiting for an answer. Hi, Dad. You latched onto his arm. So how come you say howdy? Do humans no longer say howdy? Not unless they're a cowboy. A cowboy? Asgore tilted his head. You're always saying he's a goat, Dad. A floppy green sleeve flailed out from behind the king of monsters. Isn't that almost the same? Your dad bounced the squirming small goat kid on his shoulder, summoning a giant squeak. I could go back to saying the full, how do ye, instead. You snickered. That's even more old-timey. Is it? He set Asriel down. One of the boy's ears stayed flipped over, and the larger monster flipped it back to its default setting.
Just like my gun.
Exactly. Exactly. You have to reset your ears sometimes.
That does flip his ears so much. I wish Charlie had ears that were the length of, like,
be so cool.
Like
beagle ears?
Nose.
Yeah.
Beagle ears?
Yeah.
Wow.
I want a beagle.
Meanwhile, what would you say? You shrugged. Yo! Straightening his shirt, your best friend looked at you like you were trying to play a prank on Dad instead of helping him sound cooler. Kings and queens can't say yo! Your hand swept out in a royal sort of way. Sup, my subjects? Before you could finish updating Goat Dad, Asriel pointed at the mysterious power tool you had seen from the car. What's that thing? Oh! He picked up a contraption that looked halfway between a chainsaw and a sawfish. Alphys took me to investigate the hardware's store. He pronounced the new vocab word very clearly, as if he didn't want you to miss it. And we purchased this clever device. You snickered to your best friend. Guess we know how Dad cuts his beard. The large goat monster smiled and shook his head at you. It is a hedge trimmer. I will be using it on the bushes around the school. It is much faster than the garden shears.
Can we get one of those?
Do we have hedges?
No, we have bushes? I mean, we can still do it pretty fast, but that'd be so nice.
Yeah.
You could just meow, and it might, well, yeah.
Yeah. You might say that it is cutting hedge technology. His eyebrows waggled. As subtle as an applause sign. Asriel snorted. Groaning, you pressed a hand to your face. It was best to not encourage this kind of behavior in parents.
It's actually good.
Leading you into the misty indoor jungle of the greenhouse, Asgore showed you how to tell if the pea pods were ready, then headed back to the front door. You helped Asriel pick some peas, but you couldn't find a bag and had to use the front of his shirt. This exposed his fluffy white tummy, which you only resisted tickling with a lot of determination. Besides, it would have made him drop all the peas. With the whir of fans and the rows of leafy plants, you didn't notice right away that Toriel and Asgore had both ended up at the front of the greenhouse. And they were actually talking to each other.
Sounds good.
Without a word, you took Asriel by both nub horns and rotated his small goat frame to look at your parents. His snowy white eyebrows went up. What do you think they're talking about? I don't know. Still using his horns like tiny joysticks, you steered him out of the walkway and behind a row of planters. But they'll probably stop talking about it if they see us watching. Crouched to about stem height, the two of you spied on the goat parents from behind the peas. You couldn't hear what they were saying, but the conversation sounded friendly. Asgore pointed at the hedge trimmer. Toriel's quiet chuckle echoed through the greenhouse. Wow, she's actually laughing!
Same joke, I bet.
Leaf green eyes widened in mild disbelief. I wonder what he said. A suspicion snuck up on you. You sighed and shook your head. I think he told her that same cutting hedge joke. You think so? He glanced at you. I thought you were never supposed to tell the same joke twice in a row. You shook your head. Dad jokes don't follow the rules. He gave you a serious nod, standing there with a shirt full of peas, then went back to spying. I don't know why that's a funny sentence, but it is. You could just picture him standing there holding a shirt full of peas, giving you a solemn nod. Nope.
Man,
That would be pretty funny. You did the same. You still couldn't hear them, but you could see their fuzzy muzzles nodding at each other, as if they knew the rhythm of how the other talked. While Toriel didn't laugh again, she did hide her mouth with her paw a couple of times, the same way she did when she was trying to hide a smile. For his part, Asgore mostly just brushed dirt off of his gardening clothes, or tried to, anyway. Seeing your mom willing to talk with your dad felt encouraging. Maybe everybody had been right about letting them solve their problems. Well, not everyone. Undine had suggested you fight them in a duel where if they lost, they had to get married. But you were pretty sure they'd never agree to that. Maybe they just needed to take forever to get back together, like two fluffy continents smashing into each other over a zillion years. You hoped your species didn't go extinct by then.
Two fluffy continents?
Yeah, exactly. You wanted to see. They were so nice to you that you really wanted to see what it was like when they were nice to each other. It'd be like some kind of niceness combo attack.
Wow.
As cover for your spying, you and Asriel had to keep picking pea pods. You soon had an abnormal number of them. Finally, he made you stop because he was worried about stretching his shirt.
Like the fish.
Yeah, exactly, yes.
What?
I ripped my
Like
shirt
Catherine catching fish in the ocean.
Wait, you ripped your shirt doing that?
She had that
I ripped
long
my
swim.
shirt.
She had that long swim
also-
shirt.
it
It
was
was catching fish in it.
Dressy already.
I caught 10 in one go.
That's
They were
amazing.
also
That was the
jumping.
record. They were like 4 inches long.
Soon the adults finished talking. After finding you a cardboard box to hold all the peas, Asgore took everyone on a tour of the greenhouse. The monster prince studied a green pumpkin as round and small as his muzzle. "The pumpkins are looking good." Toriel folded her hands before her and nodded. "Before long, we will be able to make pumpkin rings." Asriel's tail twitched in excitement. "Nice! What are those?" You imagined a monster fair with a very sticky ring toss booth. All three monsters blinked at you. The small goat lifted a paw, palm up. "The surface world doesn't have pumpkin rings? How is that even possible?" Toriel switched to teacher mode. "You slice a pumpkin into rings, dredge them in flour and spices like cloves, ginger, and nutmeg, then coat them in batter and fry them in oil. I like to serve
Like
them with
onion
my...
rings, but with pumpkin?
Yeah, and, sweeter spices. I like to serve them with my cinnamon butterscotch dipping sauce."
I want the recipe
That actually sounded pretty good.
for both of those.
Snails hadn't even snuck into the recipe. Your dad's ears popped up. He looked like he wished he had taken notes. Asriel crossed his arms. "Wait, Frisk, how do humans eat pumpkins?" "In pies, mostly?" You knew that people ate it in other ways, but you couldn't think of any on the spot. Your mom nodded in approval. As he gripped the edge of the table the pumpkin plants were potted on, bouncing up a little for a better view. Then he spun and looked up to his parents with excitement. "When can we have them?" Her soft white eyebrows rose with a patient look. "All in good time, my child." The tour continued. Over the past several months, Asgore had been working hard on his grafted prune tree. Now it stood tall at the heart of the school greenhouse, at least twice as tall as you. The trunk and branches grew in inky squiggles. A blizzard of tiny blossoms bloomed. Flowers grew in splashes of color, each branch a different combination of white, purple, and red.
Did it say it was a grafted prune tree?
Yeah, with like apples and like he wanted like all the fruit.
Oh yeah, it didn't. Wasn't that in
Apple,
another story?
peach, cherry, whatever.
Wasn't that in a story?
It was. Yeah, I mean, that's how Frisk got the idea of mashing Asriel's soul and Asriel together, based on grafted stuff.
That I didn't know that was physically possible to do, but that's great.
Yeah. "Oh my!" Toriel put a paw to her cheek. "That is certainly unique." She looked to her ex-husband. "What kind of magic is it?" "It is not magic." He rubbed blunt claws together. "Well, I helped it grow with magic, but it is just an ordinary tree with branches of other ordinary trees grafted on." His hand brushed along a branch. They had been installed just above horn height.
How do you even do that?
Above horn height.
How to install branches?
Yeah. that's
Well,
grafting.
yeah, I don't know, but it's a
You have to
technique
work
of...
right.
Yeah, you have to...
You have to cut it right so that it like.
I think you have to cut a
Grows
notch, if I'm not mistaken, in the existing branch near the base, and then kind of a slotted branch of another tree goes into it, and you bind it up together until it kind of connects. But I am not well versed on the technology. Asriel peered up at the branches. I can't really tell where they end and start. The king of all monster kind looked up from trying to dust the bark from his finger fur, then down at his son. Would you like to see up close? The goat kid gripped his little fluffy hands together and nodded. Bending over, Asgore scooped him up and plopped him on his broad shoulders. Toriel smiled down at you. Her voice rang like soothing music. Would you also like to be picked up, Frisk? A blush warmed your cheeks. Out of habit, you tried to get your expression to chill out, even though you knew she wouldn't tease you for feeling shy. Sure. The queen of the monsters crouched beside you. Her hands took steady hold of your hips. In one smooth motion, she lifted you easily, like you weighed nothing, but gently, like you were worth everything. You watched as your sneakers left the floor. A giddy rush followed you up. You tried your best to keep your body relaxed so that you'd be easier to lift. Not that she seemed to have any trouble. Toriel and Asgore were such polite goat monsters that, even living with them, you sometimes forgot that they were way bigger than you. She placed you on her shoulders. Her hands dropped down to hold your ankles for safety. You wiggled to keep from sitting on her ears. This high off the floor, everything looked different. Instead of a forest of stems, the plants formed a leafy canopy. You reached up and traced a finger along the rubber hoses of the water sprinklers, which were normally distant mint-green lines vining through the rafters.
So how tall? Oh, the rafters. That's pretty tall.
You wouldn't want to actually be this tall because you could never fit through a door again, but it was cool to try it out. An equally high-up goat bro grinned at you, stubby fangs sparkling like a toothpaste commercial. Hey, look, Frisk! His arm stuck out, level with your shoulder. We're still the same height! You rolled your eyes, but he seemed happy you had copied something that he did. That made you sit up a little straighter on Toriel's shoulders. Your hands adjusted their grip on her horns. Warm and smooth, they were just long enough to be good handles, without being so long that they would easily poke you. When you'd first started living with the Dreamers, you'd worried that their horns would hurt if they got pulled, like your hair, but after some encouragement you had verified that they were pretty sturdy. Asgore led everyone in a wide circle around the tree and started giving the two of you a tour of all its different parts. He pointed out which blossoms were which, even the ones that looked basically the same to you. Almond, barely pink. Cherry, pretty pink. Peach, super pink, and so on. Meanwhile, you watched the Dreamers as much as the flowers. Their velvety noses wriggled if they got too strong of a sniff. It was pretty cute. Once you'd all made a lap, I'm sorry. Let's take a break for some water here. Mm-hmm.
Toothpaste
Do you
commercial.
like toothpaste? Do you like Asriel's fangs? Buy toothpaste! You'll make your fangs as white as Asriel's fangs when you're as white as a toothpaste commercial. This one! Buy toothpaste today! Also, brush your teeth 24/7.
Wow.
That's a lot of brushing.
That's an awful lot of brushing your teeth.
Statistics show that brushing for at least 26 hours every day gives you whiter teeth than the people that don't brush their teeth.
Yeah, probably rubs off all of the enamel, too.
Teeth whitening.
Yes. Once you'd all made a lap, the adults deposited you and your bro on the floor. Toriel had been very careful with you, but you still felt all bubbly inside, like a shaken-up soda. You got lots of those fizzy sort of feelings since the Dreamers adopted you. You liked the feelings, you just didn't always know what to do with them. It took some getting used to. Just like how seeing the greenhouse from a normal height seemed strange for a moment until you got used to it. You were glad you didn't transform. It had to be like that all the time. Still checking out the tree, your mom huffed a little sigh of appreciation, like she did when the whole class had read the assignment. I think it is very lovely. Thank you. At the compliment, the blonde, bearded monster seemed to get even taller. I have even thought of a name. Toriel, Asriel, and you exchanged a concerned glance. The Monster King stepped forward, too busy gesturing at the tree to notice your concern, his broad chest puffed with pride. I call it the Multiple Fruits Tree. You groaned.
What?
Dad. He turned, curious. What is wrong, my child? Asriel rubbed small white paws together, then placed one on his dad's arm. Frisk and I were talking, and we think that from now on you should ask us when you want to name things. Oh? It seemed like a very apt name to me. He blinked, apparently surprised that the tree could have any other name. I suppose we could call it something different if you had a better idea someday. Tree of 100 fruits, you answered almost before he asked. He stroked his beard and contemplated the plant. But it only has a dozen so far. Asriel entered the conversation with a little hop of excitement. Oh, the crafty, grafty prune tree! Oh. He tipped a wide, fuzzy...
Is that the name of this story?
No, it's Undertale, something weird. Training wheels.
Oh, man. Please, can we have a story that's just called The Crafty Grafty?
I think you're getting it. This is it. He tipped a wide, fuzzy head at the colorful creation.
Please, because that's the best thing.
Well, only the plums can be prunes, and even then, only if they are dried. Fruit tree. A fruit salad tree. You counted.
Wait, you can't have a prune tree. I just realized that. I should have known that. What?
You
I realized it. I was thinking prunes what, but then I didn't say.
Well, it's like pre-prunes anyway.
That's like having a raisin tree.
You counted on your fingers.
A raisin tree?
Variety pack tree? Variety snack tree? Ultra fruit tree! Everlasting fruit blast tree! Your bro nodded at your excellent suggestions. Bouquet tree! Oh, rainbow tree! Cornucopia tree! Paradise tree! Absolute god of hyperfruit tree! Oh! Toriel's paw popped up like a student in class. The jam-packed tree! The king of the underground stood silent for a moment, stunned by your bountiful harvest of really good names.
I still like Asriel's first one the best.
The crafty, grafty prune tree.
Yep, that's the best.
Absolute god of hyperfruit tree is not bad.
Even if it was the crafty, grafty fruit tree, that could work too.
You cleared your throat. Probably best to change the subject and give him time to recover. I like the tree, though. Maybe you could put bananas on it next. You always liked bananas. They were a considerate fruit, since they went through the trouble of growing a wrapper and didn't drip juice all over. Your dad cleared his throat. Alas, I am afraid that would not work. Banana plants are really very large herbs, not trees. And the fruits on this tree are all what is called stone fruits, because they have a large seed in the middle. Bananas would not attach properly. They are too different. Asriel shrugged. That's too bad. You felt...
What defines an herb?
I don't know, but that is true.
Google it. I need to know.
Not right now. Not in the middle of a story. There are no footnotes either. You felt bad for the banana branch, even though it didn't exist. You almost got erased from existence lots of times, so you really couldn't hold not existing against it. Once the greenhouse had been toured, Asgore offered to make some tea, as usual. Your mom hesitated, and you braced for her to make an excuse to leave, as usual. After trying on a few different facial expressions, she settled on awkward. Then she nodded. We do have time, I suppose. Your dad, as surprised as anyone, stood there like a big, awkward goat for a second. Clearly, he hadn't planned this far. With your parents now stuck staring at each other, you shrugged at Asriel, hoping that he would know how to restart them. The little goat guy stopped looking back and forth between his parents and shrugged back at you. "Come on, Frisk, we'll go fill up the kettle." You didn't see why that would be a two-person job, but you let him lead you inside. Once a warm, fluffy goat hand grabbed onto yours, it was tough to let go.
Just picturing Asriel and Toriel just like staring at each other.
That's pretty much exactly it.
They need restart.
Yep.
I wonder if restarting would fix all their problems. And
I
they'd
don't
just
know.
be like automatically back together.
Maybe. Several seconds later, the goat parents followed so that they could be awkward in Asgore's cottage instead of his greenhouse. Everybody hopped into the usual chairs, except for Toriel, who had no usual chair, and stood around considering which of the potted plants to move. She set her tote bag on the table. The bag had a cartoon snail whose shell was a shipping box with the word "Escargot" printed on it. Asgore measured scoops of tea. Between each spoonful, he glanced at Toriel, as if she was an alien mom who might teleport back to the mothership at any time.
Mothership.
Somewhere deep in a pocket, her phone beeped and blooped a chipper tune. "Oh!" After a second or so of searching her robes, she located the old, blocky mobile phone. She almost sounded relieved. "Please excuse me." She flipped it open with 2 careful claws. "Yes, this is Queen Toriel. Oh, for the documentary? I suppose I do have a moment." You always thought that a queen would talk on a phone covered in diamonds or something, but hers just had a scratch-and-sniff cupcake sticker on the back. You figured that was even better. Her voice went into teacher mode. "Well, for the first 800 years, most of our fabric was made from spider silk." She ducked out of the door. Watching her go, Asgore handed you a cup of tea. It smelled like dried peaches and had about as much milk as hot chocolate did. You had recommended Toriel as the monster to talk to human historians for most of their questions. She seemed the least likely to challenge them to a game show contest or to get distracted talking about anime. Toriel wandered by the window, still explaining the history of monsterkind. You liked watching your family talk on the phone because they had to flop their floppy ears over them, like that painting of melting clocks. That's a pretty good description if you think about it.
All I know is that it's in Peggle, and it reminds me of The Scream.
Oh, it's by Salvador Dali. So you just picture a phone and a goat ear flopped over it. It is pretty.
Dali is
You
like so weird.
seeing them talk on the phone because their ears flopped over the phone like the painting of melting clock.
Yep, it's a good
Where does
analogy.
this author come up with all these analogies?
I don't know, but they work.
Wow.
Late summer sun streamed into the little cottage and shimmered in your teacup. You sat back, careful not to squish the vines growing around the window. Beside you, a little goat guy plunked a sugar cube into his tea. Leaf green eyes peered down into the cup as the shape dissolved into a lump and then disappeared. Sunlight caught in his head fluff and glowed as he passed you the sugar bowl, which was shaped like a blossom. Asgore poured himself a cup and sat down in his extra-large chair. "I have heard of the surface world tradition of parents teaching their children to ride a velocipede."
What?
"Velocipede?" The little goat guy looked at you with a confused smile. "I've never heard of that." You shrugged. Monsters got all kinds of funny ideas about the human world. You weren't sure where to start unraveling this one. "Maybe it's like a velociraptor?" Asriel's delicate white eyebrows shot up.
It's because the velocity is
Like a...
so it's related to that.
Asriel's delicate white eyebrows shot up. He clattered down his tea, then his arms went up in an X, like a soccer ref saying that a goal was no good. No way!
Are velociraptors fast?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
At least that's what people think. Now, don't be hasty. The larger monster set down his floral-patterned teapot. You haven't even ridden it yet. Dad! The small goat flung his arms out to the sides. It'll eat me! What? The king of all monster kind tilted his head in confusion, snowy ears dangling. You stuck out one hand in a sort of velociraptor gesture, and then had the other one hop on like a rider. As long as you're sitting on the raptor, it can't eat you. Probably. You weren't sure how you had never learned about riding on dinosaurs, but it sounded amazing. Unless it has lots of legs, like a centipede. You knew what you were drawing next for art class. With a small squeak of panic, the smaller goat's green eyes darted around the room, already on the lookout for the deadly velocipede. Your dad put a hand on the kid's shoulder. Asriel, please, calm down. A velocipede cannot eat you. It is a machine. In your mind, the 100-legged dinosaur became a 100-legged dinosaur robot. This creature was sounding cooler all the time. I'll ride on it if you won't. You can ride my bike. Ah, yes, that is what you call them nowadays. He snapped his fingers. The velocipede is a bike. The ferocious robot in your imagination transformed into a bicycle. Oh, you turned to your bro. Azzy, I was actually the one who told him that. You hadn't recognized the idea because it had mutated so much. I've been saying how you need to learn how to ride a bike because it's how kids get around on the surface of the earth. I already have legs. He bounced them one at a time. Can't I just walk? If everybody just walked everywhere, we'd never get anywhere. You hesitated, not sure that was totally true.
What?
If everybody just walked everywhere, we'd never get anywhere. Or at least we'd never get very far from home before we had to turn around. That's why we invented the wheel. Your hands make a large round gesture in front of him. Wheels are the future, Asriel. He rolled his eyes at you. I know what wheels are, Frisk. Mom drove us here in a car. Asgore tilted his horns in the direction of the window where a muffled phone conversation could be heard. Your mother is a busy monster, and I think you've grown up enough to handle going where you want. A fond smile spread across his bearded muzzle. Expression brightening a few shades, Asriel considered the idea. Huh. You bumped him with your elbow. And I want to go on cool bike adventures with you because you're my best friend. Your best friend's muzzle tipped down under the weight of the praise. His floppy ears swung forward and hid his face a little. Okay, maybe. Brushing your bangs out of your face, you reached over and squeezed his hand. It'll be fun! He squeezed yours back. It does sound kind of fun. Half an hour later, you stood in the school parking lot. Asriel had made a bunch of laps around to the point that your parents had decided to watch by the car so as not to crowd him. The young monster wobbled to a stop on his brand new bicycle, looking concerned that it might zoom away without permission. Yes. Training wheels sprouted out of its sides, the size, shape, and color of some lemon tarts that you had seen Toriel make once.
The shape?
I guess they must be round. Frisk, maybe I've had enough fun for now. You sighed, still holding the bike by the seat. Azzy, you're doing fine. His fingers wiggled on the rubber grips like he was casting some kind of nervous spell. Toriel had strapped him into wrist guards, knee pads, elbow pads, and a rainbow-swirled helmet, so he looked like some kind of plastic-armored goat knight. And now you may see the picture.
Yes! This sounds good so far.
Great, put it this way. It's not Rainbow Swirled helmet. It's not a Rainbow Swirled helmet.
Oh, goodness.
In this picture, he also appears to have a pillow strapped to his stomach and maybe bubble wrap around his arms. I'm not entirely sure.
Bubble wrap and double shin pads. Shin guards.
Wrist guards.
Shin guards also. And
That's what
he's
the cards look like.
He's got rainbow streamers, so.
And Frisk is
Just kind of running beside him.
like...
As they zoom.
There
he is.
His ears are like the size of Frisk's head.
Yeah, they just flap out a little bit. They're nice little.
You can put those hands on it and go...
They're just squishy, squishy.
You can put a soap dish in it.
Alright, go away.
Are we reading all of this?
Nope.
Yes?
Nope.
What? I want a squishy goat ear. Yeah, preferably the rest of
For Christmas?
Yeah. No.
You mean you'd be okay with just the
No, I said, and preferably the rest of the goat.
preferably, like, you want it, and if possible, you'd like the rest of it.
Never mind. Wait.
Yep.
I don't know what I'm saying. Never mind anything.
Toriel had strapped him into wrist guards, knee pads, elbow pads, and a rainbow swirled helmet, so he looked like some kind of plastic armored goat knight.
They missed the shin pads, the pillow on his stomach, and the bell wrap.
Well, that's just a given. Maybe we should try quilting instead. Only if you're gonna quilt up a magic carpet. You were 99% sure flying carpets weren't real. Look, you're already on the bike. You looked him over. And you're wearing every kind of safety gear. I'm just saying, it's really nice quilting weather. He gripped the handlebars and then looked down at the mysterious vehicle. Don't these blow up on TV all the time? Or start on fire? What? I think you're thinking of motorcycles. They're different. Glancing at you, he lifted his eyebrows. How different? Well, this one doesn't have a motor, for one. You looked the bike over, but none of the parts looked very explosive. Or anything that could even start on fire. He didn't look very reassured, so you decided to change the topic to one that didn't involve explosions and fire. How are the shoes working out? Asriel cast a glum look down at them. Fine, I suppose. I like that they light up. He bounced his foot on the pedal, making the LEDs twinkle. He had been unsure about the whole concept of shoes, but after putting them on, he had done a sort of stompy dance to keep activating them, which you had tried very hard not to laugh at. You were pretty sure it was the least sneaky thing someone had ever done in sneakers.
So that's what you do with them. You sneak in them.
Is it even safe to ride a bike with ones like yours? At first, you figured he meant the LEDs. Toriel had agreed that the light-up sneakers were the best because she thought the lights were a safety feature. After thinking about it, you figured they basically were. Then you realized what he meant. Oh, the laces! Yeah, people do it all the time. People with weird human hands, you mean? A fluffy paw spread toward you. I can't help it that everything on the surface is human compatible.
How would Asriel do Velcro, though? It would get stuck in his fur.
Oh, yikes.
I don't know, good question.
Ow.
Still holding on to the back of the bike seat, you pressed your free hand to his. That's a good question. Now I'm going to have to think about that.
Velcro would be so bad. It would hurt him.
Maybe they're...
Make
maybe they're
magic
magical... magical tightening shoes.
And see what she can do.
But his shoes had Velcro. I saw it.
Still holding on to the back of the bike seat, you pressed your free hand to his. His was about the same size as yours, but his fingers were a lot thicker and way too silky to grip shoelaces. I didn't think you'd ever get the yellow sparkles off your toes. You didn't tell me that streets get painted. He only agreed to shop for shoes in the first place because of the great sparkly goat bro incident. You shrugged.
With sparkly paint?
Sounds like an awesome street. You shrugged. The lines have to come from somewhere. You're the ambassador. You should tell them to use magic like normal people. He panted, his little pink tongue rolling down over his blunt fangs. Ooh, I kind of want a drink of water. I'll get it. The little goat guy moved to follow you, then realized he was trapped on the two-wheel contraption. He hadn't figured out how to get off yet. What do I do? Stay on the bike. I'm coming right back. His foot bounced on the ground like a nervous bunny. The lights twinkled green. You rolled your eyes. You'll be fine. You hustled to the car and grabbed the water bottle. On the other side, you heard the goat parents having an actual conversation. You didn't mean to listen in, but hearing the two of them talk was new and exciting, even if they still sounded a little uncomfortable. You couldn't really see their faces because of the car roof, but you could make out what they were saying pretty well. Toriel had the windows of her car tinted to keep you from straining your eyes, but her robes were bright enough purple to shine through anyway. The history humans wanted to know about Mount Ebott. Did you know their legends said that those who climbed the mountain would never return? To think that we had such a fearsome reputation while we were so scared of the humans. Asgore hummed in agreement. Old grudges, like old cactuses, eventually hurt all who carry them. He stroked his beard in a thinking sort of way. Still, I often wonder what Frisk was doing on the mountain at all. A musical little chuckle rang from her muzzle. You may have noticed the child is both curious and headstrong. And not one to break a promise. If I knew of a very dangerous place, I would make my children promise not to go there. Children do not always listen. Sadness touched her tone. Even when we have their best interests at heart. A long pause drifted between them. He raised a question in one heavy paw. But why would Frisk go to a place from which no one returns? Even only seeing the bottoms of her ears wobbling, you could tell that she was shaking her head in disapproval. The same reason that no parents have appeared and objected to our adoption. Even in a world of sunshine, not every childhood is happy. I know. He drummed blunt claws on the metal of the car door. I just wish to know if we have more to watch for. Your mom sighed. We have quite enough of the past haunting us. We have no need to visit those ghosts on each other. Asgore sighed. You are right, of course. The surface world did not properly appreciate Frisk. Our kingdom likewise lost track of Asriel all those years he was suffering. Both of them are in dire need of spoiling. She propped her paws on her hips. And I am just the monster for the task. Hearing them talk left you feeling all jumbled up inside. Sure, your life before making all these monster friends hadn't been great, but you didn't like being reminded of its non-greatness. At the same time, Toriel was a super good mom. You summoned up all your determination and resolved to be a good kid. You locked down your expression and lifted the handle as you shut the car door so that it would stay quiet. Then, like some kind of forgetful ninja, you had to silently open it again to get the water bottle. As you walked back over, Asriel was adjusting the straps of his helmet to allow his ears to flop freely in the breeze. The rainbow streamers on his handlebars danced in the breeze. The whole bike seemed to be mostly made of glitter, which Toriel thought was a safety feature, and Asgore thought was fashionable enough for a young prince. You handed him the water bottle. A quick white claw popped it open. He squirted a sparkling stream of water into his round muzzle, like some kind of adorable fountain statue. A few glugs later, he took a breathing break. What took you so long? You tried to think of how to explain the mix of feelings you had just felt, but hadn't come up with any way to explain by the time your shoulders shrugged. Why, are you melting? Probably. And you left me here on this dangerous machine. He handed you back the bottle. He stuck it into the water bottle holder, which made his fuzzy white eyebrows pop up. You'll be fine. You gripped the back of the seat again. Ready? I guess. His nervous cottontail twitched against your wrist. Okay. Pushing him forward to start again, you snickered. And stop wiggling your tail. You're tickling me. I believe we will have to call it a night there.
I believe an hour.
Yes.
Surely there can't be too much left.
We're about halfway done.
Great.
So, yep. Yep, we'll have to do more next time.
But we have to learn if Asriel gets off the bike or not.
Yes or no?
Okay, yes. I can tell you that by the end of the story, he is off the bike. And, yeah.
The crafty prune tree.
Yeah.
We do need a story called the crafty.
I am going to draw the velocipede.
Oh, which variant of it?
The robot one?
It may or may not be a robot. I'll figure it out.
All right, you draw it, and I'll figure out how to post it somewhere.
What?
We have the drawing tablet, Catherine.
Nah. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I'm definitely gonna try to draw a velocipede.
Yeah, it sounds pretty incredible.
And next to it, I'll draw Frisk riding a bike.
So you'll have to draw Asriel on the velocipede then.
No, Frisk
yeah.
gets to be on the philosophy.
No, Asriel.
Whether he likes it or not, he's going to be up on there riding it.
Yep, it's gonna be Asriel on it.
Awesome.
Maybe I'll make it breathe fire.
Sure, why not?
I just love Asriel's just like,
That's
it'll be me.
Poor Asgore has no idea what they're talking about.
Velocipede? Why would he call it that?
Because Frisk told him something about that, I think.
He probably didn't use the word velocipede, but
Oh.
it got jumbled up. No, he gave him the idea, and then it said he didn't recognize the idea because of how muddled it had gotten. Okay.
Okay, thus concludes part 1. Make sure you go buy toothpaste. You like my commercials, by the way?